Hi, my name is Savannah Garcia, and I will be doing my presentation on the cultural dimensions of the Latinx community from my experience. I put from my experience because while I know that at our university there is a great population of Latinx people, we may have each experienced a different side of the community, so I would like to share these from the experiences that I have had in the ways that I was raised. My first topic that I would like to speak on is the ideas of individualism versus collectivism. Individualism focuses on the ways of I over we. With individualist thinking, personal needs and desires are what is the priority over group or community needs or desires. Individualism is perceived by some as self-centered, but along with this, it actually produces a lot of responsibility and self-efficiency. So to completely contradict this, we have the idea of collectivism, which is the thinking that emphasizes we over I. So collective thinking promotes group or community living that flows in a way of harmony and togetherness, over a way of like self-promotion and ensuring one's like self-efficiency, I guess. With collectivism, there is a big push to focus on social norms and conforming to the ways of your community. There's a lot of filial piety, I hope that I am saying that correctly, which is the way that one respects their parents and ensuring that your parents are respected. So upon reading the differences between these two and studying into them, I do feel that in the Latinx community, there is a great lean to the side of collectivism, in the sense of collective thinking. You do what others in your community have done and you follow to the same standards. Along with that, I feel that the other big part that plays into that is the thought of respecting your parents. You do what your parents did before you. You make sure that your parents know that they are heard and you listen to them and you do what they say even if it is not like how you feel. So where I feel that individualism comes into this is that along with the collectivism thinking of you do what was done before you, right? So as a woman in this community, I have felt that it was an expectation that I go to school and as soon as I'm done, I get married, I have a child, I take care of my child, my home, my husband, and that is how my house goes. I take care of my community and I am no longer the priority. That said, I feel like the individualism comes in, as I said before, in playing the part of you do things for yourself. As well as taking care of the community, you don't expect that others will do things for you. You need to be independent in ensuring that you're taken care of alongside your community. The next thing I would like to speak on is weak/strong or low/high uncertainty avoidance. Low or weak uncertainty avoidance is the cultural tendency to essentially not avoid risks or conflict. You approach them instead. When conflict arises, you do not run from it, you approach it and you deal with it the same way you are a risk taker. So with low uncertainty avoidance, children tend to have more room and freedom to think and kind of express themselves and like explore their curiosity. With this, a lot of new and creative ideas are accepted and maybe even encouraged more. Whereas with high uncertainty avoidance, you do your best to steer clear and stay away from risk and conflict. In high uncertainty avoidance family situations, the roles and the rules are very clear. Each person in the family follows their set of, as the text said, their formal rules. Creative ideas aren't really appreciated. They may even be considered like deviant and like if you're trying to go against what your family wants. In strong uncertainty avoidance family roles, you follow what is done. You don't try to go and make your own course and create new rules. I felt that Latinx families can lean more to the side of strong uncertainty avoidance in that, as I mentioned earlier with the individualism versus collectivism thinking, each generation kind of follows what the last generation did, you know. You follow the rules that were set, and you do not disrespect or disregard your family. So that's kind of where I feel that we lie on the weak/strong uncertainty avoidance scale, is that our family and our parents are still hold to the top of our priorities, and you respect them and you make sure that they're like obeyed. You do not disregard them. Kind of staying in the role of families, I felt that an important one for me to bring up was sex roles with masculinity versus femininity. So looking at the patterns in these roles, I could immediately point out the ways that this points to my culture. Feminine role holders are expected to be the nurturers. It's very, I don't want to say stereotypical, but it almost is very stereotypical, or following along with like gender norms. Females, or the feminine role holders, are expected to be more the modest and tender of the two. As our text says, women tend to be concerned with quality of life, while men are considered to be more concerned with material success. Along with material success, the masculine role holders tend to be more assertive and tough, and they're more focused on task-based success. Looking at these roles split into families, when we see feminine families, both boys and girls are taught to be caring and have concern for facts and feelings, whereas in masculine families, boys learn to be assertive and have ambitions, while the girls are taught to, again, be the nurturers and to be relation-based. Most Latinx families, I feel, follow the masculine family route, where while the women are the caregivers, I feel that outside of these roles, women tend to wear the pants and have the relational authority in relationships, at least from what I've seen in my experience. While this is true, men are still the ones that are seen as more powerful, and they have kind of the higher status, where women are expected to care for them as well as care for their house and the children that they may have. So following this, speaking to male having higher status and stuff, I have my last point, which is low, high, or small, low power distance. So in small or low power distance communities, there is a great value for equal rights and an equal distribution of power. In these small or low power distance communities, people are rewarded and punished based on their performance, where with high or large power distance communities, there's a great respect for hierarchy. People are rewarded and punished not by their performance, but by their age or status ranking. In a small power distant family, children can freely express their thoughts, even if these feelings or opinions contradict those of their parents. They kind of live more so in a democracy where decisions are talked about and made together, while with larger power distance families, children are not supposed to contradict their parents. What the parents say is what goes, and if these things are not tightly obeyed, the children will be viewed as disrespectful. I feel that we see this a lot with Latinx families. There is a great lean towards large power distance. From a young age, you are taught to respect hierarchy. You are told to understand that those older than you are to be respected and treated better than where you are and those below you, as well as what your parents say is what goes. There is no contradicting, there is no questioning, and you're seen as disrespectful if you do any of these things. So reflecting back to all of this, I found it really interesting actually to see all of these things on paper, because they are things that you see every day. You live with them, you live alongside them, you live there, they're in your house. So it was really interesting to be able to label these things and put a name to things that you've thought and felt but never really gotten to speak about. Something like that, I feel like used as an example would be the small or large power distance. It's just expected and it's taught that those above you know more, they're respected more, they have a higher status than you, and you don't ask questions and you don't contradict things. And that's where I felt like oh my gosh, I have always thought this and I've never had a name to put to it, and I feel like I do now. Excuse me. Another interesting point that I felt I could pull from this was that in my culture, there are so many like actions and emotions that transfer house to house. It could be from my house to a stranger's house. We see the same things. We have the same, like, I don't want to say issues with parents, but the same interactions with parents, I guess. And that is the thing that spreads around the community that we can see when we look at the community as a whole. And I feel like while it can be frustrating to have issues with older generations, I feel like while we have a responsibility as a younger, newer generation who's coming up, we have a responsibility not only to break these kind of rules and barriers to get in new ways of thinking, but the older generations also have a little bit of a responsibility to allow these things to happen and allow progress to be made. That was it. I really appreciated this project, and I hope that this video gives you something new to think about. I'm sorry if you saw me looking over here. I have my PowerPoint notes open. That is all. The only thing that I have left in here is my resources and references from the textbook. Thank you so much.